Hey folks, Phil B-Man here. Today we're going to pull the stickies on my replicate trial for the oxalic acid vapor treatment. So these are hives. There's 8 hives in total right here that had mite counts in kind of the economic threshold, but not crazy amounts. And that's so they've been prior sampled and identified, pulled them out of the stacks, and got them here on screen bottoms. We are going to be pulling these stickies and then immediately putting in apivar strips to knock down the remaining mites, and we'll have then comparative efficacy of those two methods. What we're hoping to see is that oxalic acid vapor knocks down significant mites, and that there's not that many left over. Anything close to 2/3 efficacy would be pretty good, because we are getting most of the mites because there's no brood in these hives, and so it's a pretty good bet that we're getting, knocking down 2/3 of all the mites in the hive, not just the phoretic ones at the time. That's the weakness of summer treatments, is that there's a whole bunch of mites hiding in your brood. Okay, so I'm gonna, without further ado, pull these stickies. Turn the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. So I've got the next stickies on top. I've got the canola oil already warming up in the water bath so that it sprays nice and fine. And we'll slide these in after. Okay, I've pulled the no-name canola oil out of a sink full of warm water. It feels pleasantly warm to the touch, and that makes a real nice spray. These sticky papers have already been numbered, so it's easier to put them on before they're greasy than after, and then I'll just slide them all in after. Okay, then the last step here is to put in the apivar strips. I wear my gloves. Okay, let's go count some mites. Okay, time to count mites. Reminder, what we're doing here is we've got 8 hives that I've picked out of many hives sampled that are positive for, borderline economic threshold. I mean, I don't know what the economic threshold is for midwinter in bees in, sorry, I got a bee in my hair. What the economic threshold is for bees at this time of year indoors in Manitoba. My guess is any amount of mites is bad. If you look at those models, by the time, well, they're not reproducing because there's no brood. what's going to happen is pretty soon those bees are going to start to smell some warm air, even though they're inside, haven't seen any daylight, they will start to create some brood. Whatever mites you have are immediately going to sucker into that, and so that will weaken that first batch of bees, and then your mite population's off to the races. So the more we can suppress that mite population before the brood rearing starts, the better. Okay, so all of these are on 200 bee samples, 3 bees or less, so like 1.5% down to like 0.5%. And that said, let's count. It's a beautiful day. Sunlight's coming in the window. That looks about right there. Okay. So this is K7. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, ooh, there's a little cluster of them here. 10, 11. 12, 13, 14, 15, 3 of them together there, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 2, 3, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Some of them are sticking to my pen when I circle them. 31, 32, 32 for K7. K8. He's counting goes a lot faster if you have no mites. My beekeeper tip of the day would be to try to not have mites. 1, 2, 3, 4. That one's stuck on there. Put them back. 5, 6, way over here on the edge. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's interesting how they cluster up. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 there, 23, 24, 5, oh, there's 2 there, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 31. Now this one's pretty messy. Whew. This is K17. And those bees, this was a little bit wild when I was pulling it out. I wonder if they're hungry, and that's why they're really digging in. It might be time to start feeding if they're a little bit poopy, and it's good to remember. I should write that down. I've been thinking about trying an indoor feeding fumagillin trial. This hive might be a good candidate for that. Should do a gut check to see how much nosema they have. Okay, let's not get distracted, however. One mite there. And this is going to be a little bit of a going to be hard to tell. However, I'm not seeing tons of mites. That's 2. That one moved. I'll come back inside your... And the chances of missing some here are pretty high. See, there's one there. That's why you can't leave a sticky board in too long. Eventually the bees' debris, especially when you have a screened bottom, the stuff falls through and you can't read it anymore. However, this one isn't nearly as high as the others. That's 17. Well, I saw 3 mites, but that is hard to read, so we'll put a question mark behind that. That's some pretty dubious data on that one. Okay, that looks more doable. This is K12. One. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. There's 2 right sitting on top of each other. 7, 8, 9. That one came off with my pen. 10 right there. 11, but maybe just a dot rather than circling would be better. 11, 12, and stop blowing the mites around there, girl. 11, 12, 13, 14, right between those dots there. Oh, 15, 16. That one's counted. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Look under this bee here. Hoo-hoo. 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay, 12, 24. K16. One. Two. Three. Four. Five. Six. Seven. 8, 9, 9 on 16. K28. No, sorry, K20. That's not an 8, that's a 0. This one had only one mite, so 0.5% infestation. Half a percent on 10,000 bees. That means there's does that mean there's 50 mites in this hive? Three. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, sorry, that one moved, but it's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 18, 19. I've got 19. K19. This one should be about 1%. And again, a little bit of granulated sugar here. When they start throwing that out, they're a little bit starving for moisture in the colony. And now when the air starts getting wetter, some of that sort of sorts itself out. But sometimes I'll dump a bucket of snow on the floor in the shed. Some warm evening, I'll open everything up and dump some snow in there. And that has both the effect of cooling everything off a little bit, but also as that snow evaporates, and melts and then evaporates, it really increases the humidity and makes the bees more comfortable. That's the theory anyway. I'm not seeing many mites on this one at all. Pretty unusual, pretty weird to have a clean sheet when these are all mite positive hives. This is K19, should be 1%. Should be 100 mites in that hive. I don't think we killed any. Well, every data set's got to have an outlier. 18, 1.5% infestation. Another thing I'm learning from what I've been doing here is that probably these mite washes are a pretty rough way to gauge your infection. In fact, probably this method here is probably better at predicting, like in a way you're sampling the whole hive, is a way better way of monitoring low-level infections than mite washes that may or may not catch just the right bees. The other thing is when I move those hives that these are sampled from onto those screen bottom boards, I created a whole bunch of paths of escape of the fumes when we've treated the hives on their permanent bottoms. So very little gas vent off, but when we did these ones, we had quite a bit leaking out around the bottom boards because we'd broken the propolis. So that's something to keep in mind. This might be a slightly lower dose than the previous batch. I got talking and stopped counting, so I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, 18 is 16. Okay, what do we got? 3 mites in the alcohol wash leads to 30 mites, 24 mites, only 9, as low as 3, but that's a kind of weird sample. 16, 119. But if we average those samples out, we're talking 1.5% infestation, knocking down average of 20 mites per hive. So it's not quite half, I don't think. So that's a little disappointing. So we shall see how many mites are left on those apivar sticky, when we knock down the rest of the mites next week, 7 days from now, we'll read those stickies again. And of course, if those are turning up, say, I've made another column here already. So, right, the apivar treatment, if I end up writing 5 mites there, then we got most of them. If I write 100 mites here, then we hardly got any. So that's how I'm going to try to figure out the efficacy, is by comparison to that. Does the gold standard treatment knock down remaining mites? Because every mite in those hives now is one that the oxalic didn't get. So, that's kind of the benchmark we're using. It would be good news for me if we don't find many mites on those stickies next week, because that tells me, which I think I kind of know. I've been sampling up a storm trying to find mites for these experiments, and they're hard to come by. So I'm quite happy about that. And so if we find that these, in fact, what could be happening is that these hives have consistently very low ratings, and then I'm just picking off the oddball samples where there's a few more mites than normal. Sucking up 200 bees off the top bars is not a great way of trying to figure out what's going on with 10,000 bees, because our margin of error is pretty high. So I might just, it might turn out that all these hives are basically the same. But ultimately, would it be worth it to treat, go spend a week in the shed exposing myself to oxalic for 8 hours a day to knock 25 mites down in every hive? I'll put that question to you folks, see what you think. It may very well indeed be worth it to give that some thought. Okay, that's it for today. Stay tuned. Next week at this time, we'll have the apivar results for these 8 hives. Thanks a lot.